Alright, so I'm going to take this little piece of aluminum, and I'm going to cut it, I'm going to put a connector on it, and then I'm going to fabricate it up onto the Hustler base so that we don't have to have this ugly, you know, one of these, like, pigtail things. The thing I pulled off of there, I don't know what I did with it. It was pretty bad. Let's see. Yeah. I can't imagine it working very well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, but this is the simplest way to get on the air with one of these, you know. But then you need a barrel connector, you know, so I'm going to fabricate this up. And so this one here doesn't have stainless steel, so we're going to remove these. We'll go to Home Depot later on and replace them. It does have stainless up here, but it does not down there, so we want to replace all this. We're basically going to cut this thing, and it's going to sit from that bolt to that bolt. So basically, I've already done this once before, so we'll probably put that side up so it can sit flush on this. You just basically need to take a couple of measurements, and then I'll just cut it real rough, and then if I need to grind some out, I'll grind it out. Nothing real complicated here. And then we'll bend it down, or it could just be put right here and just bent down, which might actually just be easier. So since I don't have a lot of scrap laying around, I'm just gonna cut my hole for the connector first, and then bend it and see what kind of length I'm working with. So what you want to do is just find something that's like a perfect fit for this washer. I don't know what it came off of, but it's a perfect fit, so we'll just use that as our template and just put it down on here. Just trace it out with our Sharpie and drill it out. So now that we got that, I'm gonna go see what kind of drill bits I have that are close. I'll use this to guide it up. So this is a garbage set that I bought about a year ago from Home Depot, and they don't work good. They make a mess out of everything, so I'm going to use them. So this is close, but I think 5/8 might be a better choice. Let's see. Yeah, 5/8 is a better choice. I'm sure plenty of guys know exactly the size. I'm going to use 5/8. I'm just going to... I'm actually not even going to put it over here. I'm going to put it a little bit further. I need to bend this as far as possible, so I need to be further away. So the connector doesn't really matter because it's just going to have... It just needs to be like that. So, we'll be back. So I discovered something really interesting about this rigid drill. I might have to use a different one. But, so I've got my piece of metal in the vise. And it was actually stopping. It was just like, do nothing. It's, you definitely want to clamp this. It'll take off on you, as you just saw. But this thing was like getting stuck. I don't really want to be on the receiving end of this. So, that worked pretty good. You wouldn't be able to get away with this with steel, but you know, you can do it with aluminum. And now, I probably should do this outside, because I get a huge bunch of crap that's going to stick to my boots and get all over the place, so I got to come in here with a vacuum. So, perfect. So, now we're ready to put our connector on here, and we'll get some tapping screws and just put them on there, or some small screws that with nuts and bolts, if I have any. So I'll be back in a minute. And so yeah, so this is a close-up of what it will do. You know, just one of these cheap, you know, Diablo paddle bits that they're not any good for drilling wood because they make a mess out of the wood. They're not like the traditional ones. They really are nasty. So I used them for running coax into the shack, and it just destroyed everything. Sure, it drilled the hole, but it's brutal. So the other thing that's, excuse me, really good to have is these kind of files. They're really cheap at Harbor Freight. I just take this metal and I filed down these, so now I can put this in here on top of it, and I'll drill my holes, and then I'll put it in the vise and bend it, and then I'll make my final cuts later. So there's more than one way you can do this, and so you could use self-tapping screws like this, which is what I'm going to try to use first. And then I have these will work just fine, but they're just cheap machine screws from Walmart, which means they'll rust, and then they'll stain the aluminum. So we're going to start with these first, so we'll just drill them in there, and as long as, yeah, they're not going to work. Yeah, I've run into this before with this. So what happens is, these are too big for the hole in the connector. So in this case, I guess we'll just go with these. I've made my marks here. I'll just drill a small hole, and I would prefer to use stainless, but I don't want to spend a bunch of money on anything right now. When it's probably, actually, I'm going to take the antenna down because it's in my way. But I wanted to build this while I was at it. So we need to go back over here, and we'll start out with a bit that's about the maximum size of this. We could drill these ears out bigger, you know, and probably use the self-tappers. But I'm just going to do this method here. So we're going to grab our piece, and I've got my marks over here, and I'm going to put it in the vise a little bit different because this vise will open up. I've got another vise I need to use. What is it? I've got a drill press vise, which would probably work better. So get it in there, grab this other drill. But it's battery day. Maybe it's the cold weather. Okay, got one. And two. And just gotta get these nasty aluminum burrs off of here. We got that, and then we'll come over here and see if our bolts fit through, and yes they do. So come back over here, and I'll start putting it together. So I don't like using these, but it's what I got laying around. I'm trying to think if I want the ground wire at the top or the bottom. I think I'm going to put it at the top. Keep it from possibly... Well, that's like perfect. Are you kidding me? These freaking screws are too big. I've got to drill this stupid thing. All right, we're gonna drill the connector because it's these holes are too small. Yeah, this is nuts. And of course, I'm losing daylight right now. Super. Not quite. What I do is I'll wobble the bit a little because it is very close. Just be careful not to break your bit when you do that. Trust me, I've done it before. God, these are really... I wonder if I have a bigger bit over here. I thought I did, but I... This is why they call me Ham Radio Hack. Boom. Alright. So this is the hacking part. Sometimes you just make what works work. You know, you don't have the right bit, there's a way to make it work. Okay. Let's get back over here and get this damn thing put together. Alright. So on these, if there's this little piece in between here, you want it sandwiched in there. Because if you put it the other way, your connector will be too short. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm talking about, but there's actually a little piece of metal here. It's not even part of the connector. It's like pressed onto it somehow. Anyway. You want to be mindful of those things. Okay. Then, of course, I don't have a flat blade anywhere around here. It's not a very big one. It's actually a pretty tight fit to the aluminum. Is wanting to thread actually. We're just off center just a little bit here. So let's see if it fits in or not. We're literally going to end up with something that threads right in the aluminum. So let me get my other screwdriver so I don't have to sit here and do this. It's too big. It doesn't want to fit in the one. Okay. So that's literally threaded in the aluminum. Oh, there we go. So not only do we have the benefit of having it threaded up against the aluminum, but now we can come on the back side of it and tighten up the bolt. But you're only going to achieve that if you use the exact size bolts and bits that I used. So now with this aluminum, you only go so tight before it just rips the metal, and it won't take much. See, just ripped it. So, and that's okay. We don't care. we're going to put bolts on the back side. This screwdriver is really too large for this. And I'm holding the bolt with my, or excuse me, the nut with my fingers, which isn't the best way to do this. And I don't have a lock washer on the back because I don't have any stainless steel ones. Anyway, what we do now is we're going to have to bend this piece, and then we'll cut it and get the rest of it taken care of so that it matches up with the Hustler antenna. So this is what we got now. So then once you get like a pretty good idea where it needs to be, put it in your vise and just tap it very carefully. And then if you have to, you raise it up. You gotta keep an eye on the back of it. It depends on how you want it. I mean, you don't need it to be like, you know, completely bent. But if you have it like this, you will get water in it. So it's probably a good idea to completely bend it. And but when you have it at this point, you'd want to take it and go check it with the rest of it, and just see where you're at, because it's easier to stop now. You can't get too close to that because that's your center conductor. And if you put it in such a way that it moves, you'll be in trouble. So the easiest way to do the rest of this is I'm just going to cut it with this wheel. And it's not going to be real precise. So, as you see, it cuts pretty quick. So there we go. So I just go test fit it and see what it looks like. So it's still going to be pretty warm. almost. But probably need to take a little bit out of that, add a curve to it, and get it in a little bit closer. Yeah, in fact, it would have been better if I would have left more material right here. Well, actually looks like I screwed up. So I'm going to scoop that out. Put it right there. It's right there. And then this is never good for an antenna. But anyway, should be able to drop in some fresh bolts here, and it'll sit like that. But we'll have to mark this other one right here, and I'll scribe this. I'll put a little notch here. I'll undo this one. So we're gonna have to replace these bolts before we can go further with this. These are just not gonna work. So pretty much any of this you can do with an angle grinder. So this will drop down in here, and for what we're gonna do today, we're just gonna use these ones. They're brand new, there's no rust on them. We want to get this one on here first, because if we undo the other one, this plate will come off. And actually, I'm going to put my other one right over here. And you can get these bolts from Walmart or something, or Home Depot. They're pretty cheap. You go to Home Depot, you can get the bag of them, which I'm going to do later. Stainless steel ones. I think these ones were from Walmart. So now I got to remove this, and then I'll put that one in its place. You get a washer on there. Now these are a little bit smaller than the originals, but they're not too bad. And then, now that I've got that on there, I just have to make the rest of my connections. Doesn't look too bad, you know. And I just kind of winged it. I mean, you know, I could have went out to here, cut a better piece, you know, but you're just doing it on the fly, so you might get it wrong. You know, I figured with the worst case scenario, I had to throw out the piece of aluminum. So there you go. You just finish your connectors on the bottom. And, you know, instead of ordering one of these from DX Engineering.